If you could describe the graduating class in one word, what would it be?
Has a hyphen. Good riddance. Nah, I'm joking.
All right, first question. If you could go back in time to one moment during your time at Pitt, when would that be, and what makes that moment so special for you?
Go back in time. I'm not sure. I guess medaling in my first Roman race, that was like a pretty fun, eventful moment.
I'm currently operations manager for an organization here called Sailbot, where we make a robotic sailboat every single year. I want to go back to when I first joined the team, my freshman year, and it was a special moment for me, yes, but I wish I could go back and really be more involved, have more, and just generally interact a little bit more, because I feel I did eventually open up to people, and I did eventually show my colors, but I really do wish I kind of did that earlier on.
What I think of is actually there's a time when I feel stressed about this here life, actually when I'm go to meet my supervisor, Dr. Lee, and he just saw me now very confident, and he told me that you are a good person, you should be confident, and I feel I'm warmed a lot. Yeah.
Easily, the night we won the ACC championship in football, all my friends ran out in front of the cathedral, and it was thousands of people out there. And then we started marching to Heinz Field, and we got really far, and a lot of people started turning back. We're like, no, we can do it, let's go, let's go. And we ended up walking all the way there. I would not do it again, but it was fun.
Definitely for me, my freshman year. That's where I met a lot of my close friends, and I still actually live with them to this day. So it was just a different time when I was living in the dorms and living on the dining hall food and all that, but definitely fun.
I'd say my sophomore year. It was during the fall, and I was in the makerspace doing thermodynamics homework, and there were a bunch of other people also doing thermodynamics homework in the same class, and that's where I got to meet a lot of my engineering friends.
All right, I'm going back in time to our first rover project in MEMS 24. I'm going back in time to that, making that rover drive like no one's ever driven before. Make that thing awesome.
What advice would you give your high school self?
Take more risks, definitely. I feel like in high school I was a different version of myself than I am right now. That's thanks to risks I've taken throughout college and things I've explored while being a college student.
Basically, be prepared for the worst, because if it ends up being better than you expect, you're pleasantly surprised.
Trust yourself, yeah, nothing else. Just trust yourself.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for accommodations when you need them. Don't be afraid to do any of that stuff, because my freshman year self, I wouldn't say my high school self, my freshman year self definitely needed that.
I would remind myself to keep things fun, keep things light. Don't take everything too serious, but I'm already pretty good at that, and I was good at that back then. So I would just say, yeah, buckle up.
The advice that I give to high schoolers in general is to try as many things as possible in college. That's why you're here. I took that a little too far. Personally, I've tried too many things. So maybe my advice to myself would be, you take it easy.
Yeah, I would just say, don't be stressed. Everything's going to be okay in engineering, and it's a good time, and you put in the work, but you still have the time to have a lot of fun.
If you could give advice to yourself when you graduated college, what would you say?
It's not an easy question.
I think you always have to be open for opportunities. Probably the best advice. In other words, don't be conservative, right? but also don't just chase a title, right? Be sure you're doing something that you really want to do as well.
I guess I would say don't worry too much about the first job or even the second job, because you're going to figure it out as you go along. Figure out what you like, what you don't like, and even if you think you have a career path in mind, it's going to end up looking quite different than you think. So always keep learning, always look for that next opportunity, because you never know when it's going to be pop up, so just be ready for it.
Keep connection with friends who I met during my college.
Follow your passion. Don't feel like you have to conform to the rules of society and the expectations of others, but do what you want.
Who's your favorite professor and why?
Dr. Whitefoot is my favorite professor. I'm sure that's going to be a popular answer. He's just so good.
There are a few different contenders. Dr. Whitefoot is definitely the first that comes to mind.
Dr. Whitefoot, by far.
Dr. Berry also, he's definitely one of my favorites just because of the fact that he gave me a lot of different opportunities.
Dr. Berry is the most thoughtful professor I've had in the MEMS department. He genuinely cares about delivering content to students in an accessible way. Dr. Cole is probably the most passionate and effective instructor I've ever had. And Dr. Jacobs was the best instructor I've had for technical writing.
It should be my supervisor, Dr. Lee, yeah, because actually I don't do everything very perfectly, very well, but he will always encourage me and give me power in my academic life.
I had Dr. Hawkinsmith for Calc 2 and 3, and he was fantastic.
My Film 1 professor, Tony Balco. I know he's not an engineer, but it doesn't matter.
If you describe the graduating class in one word, what would it be?
If I had to describe the graduating class in one word,
I would say the one word would be tenacious.
Why tenacious?
So tenacious just because they had the COVID to deal with, right? And then so you go through that, and then you have all the classwork that you're doing. And engineering in general is something that you just gotta stick it out. So it takes tenacity.
I'm gonna give a list of words. Diverse, unconventional,
Resilient, because I think it takes resilience to get through an engineering program regardless, and every graduating class since 2020 has had to deal with the pandemic, whether it was in high school or in college, and that's taken a lot to recover from.
feral, some may say.
New start.
Overly independent. A little bit zealous. You are trying to carve out your own path, your own way in an unconventional manner. That's what made you guys memorable. That's not one word. Don't have one word that describes that.
Was there a moment or person that put you on your career path?
In high school, I was really into science, and I wanted to be like a scientist, wear the lab coat and stuff. And then people were like, "If you like money, don't do that."
I could say my dad. I wanted to be an engineer since I was very little. He's actually not an engineer, but we definitely think the same way. We approach problems the same way. I think just growing up around him has taught me a lot about, what I want to do with my life.
I think there are a couple. Dr. Ohodnicki in my freshman year, he and I talked many times about what kinds of things I want to do and got me into engineering science, and in that a lot of ways that has put me on the path that I'm on now. If I had to point to anybody, it would be Dr. Berry's as the influence for me going into what I want to do in the future.
Really, I'd say it was my brother, right? He is 3 years older than me, and he currently works in construction. And even though I am a Mechie major, he is the person that drove me to becoming a minor in Civi.
I remember I had a calc professor in high school, my AP calc professor, Mr. Achille. He made me love school, he made me love math.
I think it's just younger myself, yeah. I always want to be a professional researcher in my early time.
I would say there were two. They were my high school teachers, Mr. Maple and Mr. Slick. Mr. Maple was my engineering electives teacher, and he would, thank you. And Dr. Slick played a role because he was my physics teacher in high school.
Was there ever a moment when you considered dropping out of engineering?
Yes. Yes, many times. If you hear someone say no, they're lying.
No.
I never seriously considered it, but I definitely have thought about it.
No, I have never thought about dropping out of engineering or switching majors.
Oh, freshman year. But I persisted because, well, I mean, I'm only a freshman. I know I've gotten through it way worse. And I decided to power through my freshman year, and thankfully it only just got easier from there.
Every time when I face the midterm or final, I will be like, oh my gosh, should I be an engineer or something?
Yeah, and then I called up my dad, who also went through engineering, and he was like, man, you'll be okay.
Do you think you would be friends with your mom or dad when they were in college?
Absolutely, yeah, especially my dad.
I think I would have been good friends with my dad when he was my age, but I think I'm also exactly like him, so.
Yes. Yes, I do. My mom especially. Obviously, I don't know what my mom was like in college, but based on what she's like now, I think that I would have been good friends with my mom when she was in college.
I said I would, yeah.
Yes. I think from what I've heard about their college experience, I think my dad and my mom were very different, but they seem like they were cool people, and they still are cool people.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
2030, I see myself missing these years. I'm gonna be looking back on these years like, oh man, I can't believe that's already over. I think there's better times yet to come, but I'll never forget these few years.
I see myself in a PhD in 5 years, hopefully finishing the PhD.
I think if my application goes well, I will be a PhD, yeah.
I'd like to imagine I'm, still an engineer doing engineer things.
I'm not really sure. I'm very much focused on living in the moment. I'd say in 5 years, I hope that I have a job. If I have the same job that I get out of college, I'll be happy. That means that, something's going right there and I want to stick around. But yeah, very much as of right now, I'm just kind of focusing on the now.
Do you have any parting words for the graduating class?
Oh, absolutely. Best of luck.
My advice is always to keep learning. It's one of the most fun things about life and can be one of the most fun things about any job. And so if you find that you're in a job and you're not learning anymore, see how you can push yourself to take on something new. You may not see exactly how it will relate to your job or your life at this time, but I've always been surprised how it'll eventually come up in the future.
I'm qualified to teach heat transfer and applied thermodynamics, but I'm not sure I'm qualified person for this kind of advice, so we are all grown-ups. If you guys have any good suggestion, advice, please give it to me.
How about one more word? If you're still recording?
Yeah.
All right. So one other thing I would say to our students is please stay in touch.
Of the relationships that you made during your time at Pitt, is there anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah. Shout out my roommates, Marcus, Brad, Justin, Bustos, and Ben. You guys are awesome. So happy I met you guys.
I would just shout out all my teammates from the rowing team, from definitely from my novice year, because you guys give me a essential backbone that I really needed during that time. Everything for you guys, and the fact that you guys essentially gave me hopefully some lifetime friends.
I would love to shout out my friends VJ, Simon, Drew, Caroline, Chris, Gabe, Drew Yoy, Natan, everybody that ever helps me out through engineering. I'd love to shout out my band, California Loud. I'd love to shout out all my friends, just anyone that I've gotten the opportunity and the pleasure to meet throughout my college experience.
Shout out Jake and Brady. Jake was with me from day one. Brady joined the group sophomore year, transferred in from Greensburg. He's a Bobcat. But yeah, love you guys.
I'd like to shout out definitely Dr. Ohodnicki as my academic advisor, and Dr. Barry, especially ambassador team. Then the makerspace. Dr. Clark and Brandon, all the former lead teams, and all of our mentors throughout my years in the space. My core group of friends, VJ and Drew and Gabe and Caroline and Simon and Lucas and Chris, for being my rock in a lot of ways.
Shout out to all of my friends, especially the ones that have been with me since freshman year. We've been powering through this, and we have gotten through it in the end. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap.
Good stuff.